Welcome to my channel. I'm JCM Berne, author of The Hybrid Helix and a couple of other books, and the host of this show where I talk about bookish stuff, but I promise to never actually burn a book. Today, I want to follow up on a previous video I did about Booktube, and you should watch that video. I talk a little bit more about what Booktube is and how it behaves as a system, and it's worth knowing that if you're interested in the topic. Today, I'm going to talk a little more specifically about how to get into the game, so to speak. I was at a panel at Worldcon this past September with John Min from Talking Story and with Bookborn from Bookborn. And we were talking about long-form video content, primarily on YouTube, I think. The topic came up of how do you get into Booktube? In other words, from an author's perspective, how do you get your book so that it is one of the books being talked about on Booktube? How do you get your book onto the screen? How does it get it into the hands of those people who, presumably we love to see, discuss books? And we didn't address the topic in great depth. We talked about it a bit, but obviously it's an hour panel. You don't have time to talk about everything at length, which is reason. And also the panel, which is super ironic, was not recorded and broadcast. So no one got to see it except for the, dozens of people in the room who were lovely. The crowd was lovely. But my point is, I thought I had something to say about this topic and was probably worth sharing in a broader way. And this is the broader way. Here we go. You might want to say, well, Joe, who the heck are you to talk about this topic? And I'm not going to certainly say I'm the most successful author in Booktube by any stretch, right? Absolutely not. But I actually have had a decent amount of luck and progress getting my book exposed on Booktube. You can just look at go to the YouTube, go to the search box, which is somewhere around depending on how your screen is set up. Go to the search box, put in JCM Berne, put in Wistful Ascending. Look at how many different people have talked about my books. You can see I've actually gotten quite a bit of exposure there, and I've never won a contest. I'm self-published, or I don't pay these guys any money. My channel isn't a big hook the way it is for some other authors where, they have a channel that's very popular and they know all these booktubers through their own channel. I didn't have that. This channel is still tiny, which is not complaining. I'm just saying that wasn't how I got into the thing. I've never won a contest anyway. So I think I've been pretty successful, and I'm observant, so I can tell you what generally works. It's not that complicated. The second thing I want to remind everyone, whether you've seen my first video on this topic or not, is YouTube is social media, right? It's super important. People on Booktube, their job is not discovery. They primarily are not people who just want to find the next, cool book to read and put it on their channel. There are people like that. They are relatively rare. And to some extent, I think all booktubers do want to do that also, is that is part of their mission, right? I think all the booktubers I know, they would love to find the next great read and share it with all their friends, right? Their audience and the other booktubers. They do want that. But that is not the primary focus, because trolling in the sense of just, kind of scroll, going through book after book after book of unknowns is not an efficient way to build an audience. It's not an efficient way to spend your time. They're not looking to do that. So if you are an unknown author, you might think, they're going to want to read my book because it might be the next great book. And then they can be at the leading. That's not how Booktube works. For the most part, they're going to spend most of their time reading the books other people already know about, they're already reading, because when an audience member looks at the video and goes, they're reading that book that I heard about a bunch of times already, or that I've read and I love, that's going to get them to watch the video. If they put up a thing that's, read this new book you've never heard of, that draws a much smaller audience, many fewer eyeballs. And you can see it. You can just talk to any booktuber, talk to the ones who have reviewed my books and say, when you did a dedicated review on Joe's book, how did it perform? You don't even have to ask them. You can look at the views at the bottom of the screen. You can see it. It's a pittance, right? That's just the nature. That's not a complaint. That's the nature of the situation. So how do you? But there is a way to break in, because it happens. So what do you do? I'm going to give you some basic tips, and they will probably mostly seem like common sense, and that's fine. Sometimes we need a little common sense and a little structure to understand, but the question's been asked, how do we get here? Okay, so I'm going to start. First of all, you really want to write a good book, and that sounds asinine to say out loud. Maybe it is. The booktubers, they're friends with each other. They talk behind the scenes, and they talk together on live streams. If your book isn't great, they're going to tell each other, don't spend your time on this. the word will spread, and you're going to be shut down before you start, no matter what other criteria you fill on this list. It's not going to be enough. Write a good book. Write a book if you write a book that's solid but very similar to other books that are out there, you might get somewhere with some of the people. But if you write something really different that really helps, if you give them something to talk about, like, oh, this book did this one thing great. This book had the best characters I've ever read. This, whatever the thing is, it will help if you have a quality that really stands out. If your book is like solid across the board, but not great in any one way, I don't know what to tell you. The side part of this is, if you've written a book that's solid but not great, you may want to not push it too hard, because if people read your solid but not great book, then they will remember your name, very possibly, and your chance to sort of break in may be blown. If you write a solid book and then you write a phenomenal book 2 years later, I'm not saying you can never get exposure. I'm not saying it's done. But to a certain extent, a new name has some cachet in that you're an unknown. Once you write a solid but not great book and get it out there, you are running a real risk that you'll be known as, oh, that person, their books are fine. That's it. No, and fine doesn't bring eyeballs to the screen. Fine doesn't get them calling each other, get the different reviewers. Oh, you got to check this out. It's fine. Like, no one's doing that. So if you write a solid book, and this, it requires some self-awareness on the part of an author. If you write a solid book that's not great, you may want to wait until you've written your third or fourth book that is great, if you have greatness in you, and push that one hard and not your first book. How do you find that out? How do you figure that out? I can't tell you the answer to that. That's a different video. Okay. The second thing that will really help, and there's no easy way to do this, is a phenomenal cover. Okay. Because what are booktubers, they're talking about books, sure, but they're also sharing covers, like cover reveals. They're getting books, opening, unwrapping them, showing the cover. And if it's a beautiful cover, they want to share it, because again, people watch them and go, oh, cool cover. Everyone loves a cool cover, right? You don't have to have heard of the book. So you see a bunch of cool covers on like an unhaul video, that will get your book exposure. And all you have to do is get a great cover. And the only way to get there's two ways to get a great cover. Either be incredibly talented yourself, congratulations, I'm not that person, or spend a lot of money, or find a great artist who's not well known yet. And they're not a ton of money, and you can get a great cover. I don't have good advice for how to go through that process, because I'm terrible at it myself, but there are people who can do it, right? It's certainly possible. Then, if you can send physical copies, that will really help. First of all, people feel this is going to sound terrible, right? But if you send someone a book, they know you spent money on it, you wrapped it, right? You spent money on shipping. So they're going to feel a little bit obligated to do something with it. Does that mean they're going to say it's a great book? No, most booktubers won't say it's a great book unless it's really a great book, but they'll unwrap it on screen. They'll, oh, look, there's this beautiful book. Hey, everyone check it out. Look what I got in the mail. Everyone loves an unhaul video. You'll get screen time by having a great book, a great cover that you have sent. If the cover's terrible, I don't know if this will work. Make sure that they accept books. Make sure that you've talked to them and they've said, oh, I'll take the book. Don't just, or they have an email address that says, I'm happy to accept books. And then you can send it to them. Great, phenomenal, good for you. But when you send a book, you've got to understand a couple things. One, you cannot nag them. You can't say, oh, have you read the book yet? 6 months later. You can't do that. You just don't, because then you'll be that guy or that girl, and you don't want to be that person, because then you'll cut this whole thing off at the knees. Or I should have said, don't be a jerk. Should have been like the number one thing, recommendation. Don't be a jerk. Okay. Don't be that person. You send someone a book. Your expectation is that here's what you do. You send someone a book, and in your mind, you have to say, I believe that the person I'm sending this book to intends to read this book at some point, and that is all I am taking as the quid pro quo. I send them a book, and they promise me that they intend to look at it at some point. Could be 2 years from now. You don't know, right? I have had physical books in the hands of reviewers for multiple years, and they have not read the book or said a word about it after the unboxing, and that's fine. That's just how it goes. You have to expect that you will send many books. Many of them will not be touched for a very long time, maybe ever. Okay, that's just how it works. But the physical book, the physical presence of the actual physical book on their shelf is a certain amount of pressure on them to read the book. Not an infinite amount of pressure, but some. It will remind them, oh yeah. It will remind them in a way that a digital copy will not. So if you can, send physical books. Next, get audio done. Get audio done by a real narrator. Don't read it yourself unless you are actually good at this. There are people, Andy Witham, right? He's acting training. He's a phenomenal narrator. He narrates his own books. Good for him. That's phenomenal. That's great for him. I can't do that. I've tried. I mean, could I spend a year and maybe become an adequate audio narrator? I don't know. I pay a narrator, get audio. And here's why. For many people, I think most people, especially many reviewers, they have a period of time that they have where they can listen to audiobooks, like while they're vacuuming, while they're driving, and then they have time that they can spend eyeball reading. Everything's available for eyeball reading, all the books. Not everything's available on audio. So they have all these books they want to get to, and they have a stack at home. They have shelves full of unread books, and they have a certain amount of time every day where they're going to queue up the next audiobook. And that's a small subset of their total TBR. If you can get onto their audiobook TBR, you have a much better chance of getting read sooner. I've had many reviewers read my books on audio and listen to the books on audio. It's reading, it's the same thing. That clearly would not have gotten to the physical book, even if I'd sent them a physical book, and they definitely wouldn't have gone to the digital book because, there aren't as many audiobooks. Are more expensive. Not everyone has a pile of audiobooks they've gotten for free. That's just not how the ecosystem works, at least not now. So get an audiobook made. You can often jump the queue on someone's going to say, oh, I'm going to try to get to this book physically, but it might take me 2 years. But, oh, you sent me the audiobook. Oh, I'll get to that next month. That has happened to me many times. So if you can, do it. Next, participation. Participate in the world of Booktube. The more often people hear your name, again, there's this pressure. I talked about your book on the shelf behind them is a certain amount of pressure. Oh, I should get to that. They put their book down. Someone finishes a book like, oh, what's next? Oh, that book's been on my shelf for like 6 months or for a year. That's a certain amount of pressure. You can also exert, I'm making it sound terrible, but I don't mean to. You can also exert some by just being present in people's lives where they hear your name. And that means, watch their videos. I mean, when you watch a video and someone says something interesting, write a comment, but make it a pointful. The comment should not be, hey, just watch your video. Don't forget my book. Never say that. Please just never say that. Okay. You're nagging. You don't want to be that person. Okay. But what you can do is say, hey, your interview with this author I love was phenomenal. I love how you asked them this interesting question, right? Or you can make a joke, right? You can make, oh, this thing you said was really funny, and I, whatever, right? Some kind of response, some kind of interaction with the people. Look, YouTube is social media. People make videos because they want interaction for the most part. They want interaction with their audience. They want a back and forth. You're part of that, become part of that audience, and they will remember your name. And then again, that's a little push. Maybe this person said like 7 funny things on my comments. Don't bombard them. Don't comment on you don't have to comment on every video. Okay. Don't be reasonable, but be part of the life. If they're on a live stream, go on the live stream, leave a couple comments. Maybe they'll talk about, hey, I heard your book is really fun. They'll say something on the live. You can go on their Discords and make some comments. So, hey, I saw your video. Thought it was really interesting what you said about this and whatever. You can join their Patreon. I have not done that. I kind of feel it's a conflict of interest for me to be on a reviewer's Patreon. So I will send them books and I will interact with them, but I have not been on their page. It's also money. And I don't have an infinite supply of money, so I haven't gone that particular route. I'd rather spend the money sending a book than joining someone's Patreon. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, and I'm not saying like it's unethical in the sense that if I hear someone did that, they're a terrible person. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for me personally, it feels a little iffy. And with all the participation, the big trick is it works best if you mean it, which means if you're doing it so that if you're on someone and you're leaving comments and you're participating in the lives and you're commenting and you're interacting with them so that they read your book, it is very hard to hide that fact. And it comes across as kind of not nice. So it really helps if you, and it might not even work unless you really want to be doing that. See, here's the thing. I like these videos. I comment because I think, I have something I want to say. When I leave a comment, I don't know that I've ever left a comment to get the booktuber to read my book, right? What I'll do is I'll watch the video. They'll say something interesting and I want to comment. I want to respond to this, and I'll leave a comment. But it's because I want to make the comment, and then sometimes afterwards I'll go, oh, you know what? That is smart, right? That maybe they'll read my book now, maybe not, right? but I never leave the comment in order that they read my book. I leave the comment because I want to leave the comment. So if you don't care about these videos and you don't want to, you don't have genuine things to say in the comments, if you don't have genuine participation to make, genuine communicative acts that you want to put down, this is probably not going to work. And that's fine because it's probably not worth it anyway. And that's kind of the conclusion I want to draw is if the biggest booktubers love yours, like, you know, if the biggest people if Daniel Green loves your book, right, that's going to help. I can't deny it, right? Any of these guys, but generally speaking, the money you spend on great covers, the money you spend shipping books, the money on audio narration, if your goal is to make the money back through becoming popular on Booktube, it is not going to work. The people reading indie books are relatively small channels, and none of them have, you know, millions of followers. Maybe Daniel Green has millions, I don't remember, but almost none of the other ones do. And even if one of the bigger booktubers, you know, reviews your book and really likes it, you're not selling thousands of books off that, right? It's just the math doesn't math. So if you're trying to make money, if your goal is to view this as a business proposition, you probably need to find you're probably much better off getting good at ads than you are trying to break into Booktube. The reason I love Booktube so much is that I do genuinely love the interaction with the booktubers. I love hearing them talk about my books, and that's a big part of the satisfaction I get out of being a writer. I love being part of that community. To me, that's the value. It doesn't make money for me. So if you're trying to make money, get really good at ads. Don't try to get your book into the hands of, you know, whoever. I don't want to name names because I'm going to get myself in trouble. But if you want to be part of that reviewed community, if you want to see your name, if you want to have your name put into the YouTube search engine, bring up a whole load of hits, if that brings you personal satisfaction, and it does to me, I got to be honest, then this is the route to take. It is, and unfortunately, it is pricey. It doesn't mean you can't do it just by writing a great book. That alone can work. You can win a contest, you know, by Blood by Salt does not have, I don't think it has a great cover, and but it's all over the place because she won Spiffbo, and apparently it's a phenomenal book. I haven't read it, but I've heard only good things. Write a great book that it makes it is possible, but there are a lot of great books that don't get a lot of coverage because it's hard. It's a tough racket, and discovery is really tricky. But if you can afford great cover, if you can afford audio, if you can afford to send physicals to anyone who might be interested and know that you might just be throwing money down the drain because they might never get to it, then try it. And you see if it brings you this kind of satisfaction it brings me, and if it doesn't, I'm sorry. So that is how to break into the game of Booktube. And I might have missed something, in which case I'll just do another video because that's the joy of what I'm doing. I can just make another video. Anyway, have a great time. I hope you read some great books. And Christmas is coming. I'll try to make another video before Christmas, but we'll see. Anyway, happy holidays to everybody. Hanukkah's getting towards the end now. And take care. Peace out.